Hello people of the internet, my name is Owen and welcome to this brand new video on Blurb about the mk5 Astra. Ooh, let's sit in here and close the door. So in this video guys, we're going to be making a video on, there we go, on the top 10 things I dislike about the mk5 Astra. Now, I want to make this very clear. Last time I made a dislike video on a car, everybody took it to every single Astra is what I meant about. My last hated video was actually the top 10 things I dislike about my Astra J. This video is the top 10 things I dislike about the Astra H, but please don't take all these issues to heart. Most of the issues I am going to be mentioning are issues with this particular car, not the rest of the mk5 Astras. There may be Astras out there that will never ever have these issues that I mention, but these are issues that I have found over whatever years I've been driving that are problematic with these particular cars. So hope you guys enjoyed. If you do, or hope you guys enjoy. If you do, why not leave a like and subscribe. Let's get into the video. Okay guys, so the first issue with the mk5 Astra that I find, which I'm going to firstly explain, is actually in the back seats. Now, it's quite comfortable sitting in the back and there's plenty of space in the back. The problem being is if you are on a long journey, there's not many features back here for anybody to really enjoy. Now, you do have a cup holder right there, but I found that larger cups will not fit in there. You do get a door bin, kind of, which is pretty good, but the armrest is right next to the speaker right here. It's not very practical back here, I'll be honest with you. And yeah, you get plenty of space here, and you do get also a drinks holder there, but you don't get any drinks holders from the front. You do have the door bins, which I have found you can fit maybe a can or something in there, but it's, if you've got like a Rockstar can or a normal energy drink can, you'll struggle to get it out of there without spilling anything. I've done that myself. It's quite annoying sometimes, but an acceptable door bin nonetheless. I suppose the ones back here aren't so bad, but you don't get an armrest back here either. This is just one bench, which I suppose is okay, but you've got very small windows here as well. So if you're, I don't know, the height of me and you want to look out your window, you're always constantly hitting the pillar trying to look out of the window to have a look around. So especially with a black roof lining in here, it can end up being quite claustrophobic back here. But I mean, this is only a very small issue that taller people like myself would really find, but as kids in the back of here, you know, it's actually a pretty safe car for one, but also there'll be plenty of space for the kids back here rather than adults. But if you're an adult back here, I mean, I'd probably say it'd be comfortable with two people, but trying to fit three in here would be, well, it wouldn't be nice. One thing I dislike about this car as well, which has been a pain since we've got it. Now this only relates to the timing chain engines on these, but this is the 1.4, and when you start it, it can be ticky. Now I've sorted this one out, so hopefully this one isn't too bad. Let's have a listen. So it's not bad at the moment, but usually that is pretty ticky, which is a pain in the ass to get sorted, but luckily an engine flush actually did this car some good. The third thing that I dislike about this particular Astra, and it also affected the Safiras, is the heater and the fan. The heater matrix is a pain in the backside. If you need to change it, you have to take out the glove box and you have to sort it from behind there. Or on the Corsas, you have to sort it at the bottom corner. On the Vectras, you've got to suffer the consequences of changing the entire fan. Now, we've actually got the heaters on this working perfectly fine. But this was another car that has a problematic control module, which is this thing here. Now watch this. The fan is on full blast, right? And the only way to turn it off is turning the dial. Watch this. Just by touching the dial, turns the fans off. Let go. It works. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Now, remember, this is one thing that people are going to be commenting in the video. This is all piano black. This is a 55 plate car. None of this is supposed to be piano black. But, guys, you remember my Vectra. My Vectra had a similar issue, and the interior of that was not modified. My mum's Corsa D, which you guys haven't seen yet, she's bought that car from brand spanking new in 2010, and that's got heater control problems as well. And that car's only done 32,000 miles on a 2010 plate. You know, I can't really say anything that she's done to it. It's more so, at the time, Vauxhall's electrics. You look on YouTube and you will find there are loads of problems with heaters, especially on the Saphiras. Let's not get into that though, but there's so many issues when it comes to the heaters on these generation of Vauxhalls. It is kind of annoying. Another thing, again, it's interior related, the actual gear gaiters on these cars. Now, these can happen also on the Mark IV Astras. It also happens on older Vauxhalls like my Corsa, but these leather fabrics, they don't stand the test of time. They end up just flaking away, even if it's low mileage like this one, which is on 73,000. The rest of the interior is okay. It's just these gaiters, they really do wear down over time. The fifth thing that I dislike about these cars is actually the pillars at the back of the rear. When you're looking through the mirror at the back of the car, you can't actually see where the rear end is. It's like you're in the Saphira, well, not Saphira, you're in a Insignia like that where they have small windows, but these have actually got quite thick pillars, so trying to see past them when you're reversing is actually a bit of a pain. So visibility wise, yeah, it's a bit funny. Now, I appreciate this next issue only applies to this generation of car. Many of cars like the Insignia or the Astra J don't have this issue, but I have a dash cam in this car, and I always have to unplug it from the cigarette lighter, because the cigarette lighter will forever have a constant live. Watch this. I'll turn the car off and I'll take the keys out, and that is still on. I'll even open the door, because on some cases they turn off with the doors open. It is still on and charging, draining the battery. So there's one thing I dislike about the car is the constant live, because sometimes you forget about it and you have to unplug it, leave it on the floor, and it just looks untidy. I wish there was a way that you could actually switch it off when you want to, and there probably is, but considering this particular car didn't have an MP3 player or anything in here with an aux port, and the only way of getting music was putting a Bluetooth transmitter in there, that Bluetooth transmitter will never turn off, so you'd have to constantly unplug, plug in, plug it. And yeah, that's why this clip's broken off. It's a bit of a pain. The seventh thing that I dislike about this Astra, or this year of Astra, is actually the plastics. Now, some people will probably disagree, but I think these plastics are, yeah, they're soft, but they're not really durable. They're very flexible. Yeah, they're kind of soft, but then you get to these plastics, and these plastics, these have a tendency to move. Yes, okay, they've been changed, but you've got plastic like these which scratch very easily. Especially the vents end up breaking. Luckily on this one, I think they're actually all right on these, but the vents usually break. You've got well, what would usually be a sport button there, which is a blank. Your OBD port is behind this, underneath the handbrake. This feels very loose. That's loose, but yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not the worst car in the world, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying this car is terrible, and I quite like the interior of this, but in terms of the plastics used, not so much. The eighth thing I dislike about this car involves me getting out the car, which is not the problem, but I've always liked the front ends of these cars. Always liked them. I think it looks pretty smart, pretty cool, and all that sort. But the only thing that lets these cars down have to be the headlights. Now, over time, yes, it's sun damage, yes, they're plastic, but they end up being fogged up all the time. And I suppose that happens on other cars, not just Vauxhalls, but on these, they're always a big culprit. I mean, look at this one. It's much dimmer than that one. That one's pretty clear. So that's always one thing to contend with. Now, rolling on to my 9th issue would actually be the rear end of these SXIs. It looks pretty plain, should we say. So if I stand back, and I go back here, and you stand like that, the back end doesn't look, it looks too raised. Now yes, you could lower it if you really wanted to. It's not an SRI, so it doesn't have sports trim, but as an SXI, and there's proof it was, well, it says SXI on there, but the front end looks really cool. Looking at the back end from the side, it's okay, but the actual part of it on the rear, I'm not quite sure. Still, I'm not knocking the car's looks. It's a decent looking car. It's a decent feeling car. You got, it shuts pretty well. And you've got the stainless steel pedals. But I don't know. I just think, considering, I mean, I know this is called the GTC in some cases. Sorry guys, it is -2 out there. It's pretty cold, so I'm having to jump back into the car now and then. But no, something on some of these Astras, the rear ends just look very plain. And I've noticed that with some of the Vectras. Now, I'm not complaining really that much on the styling. I get that this is an SXI, it's not an SRI. You know, it's got quite a lovely steering wheel on this, and this is not an aftermarket steering wheel. This is the original steering wheel. And yes, it has basic trim on the inside, obviously, mine's the same. But I just think the exterior is missing something. And the last thing I'm going to complain about is actually the drive chain of some of these Astras. Now, I don't have a problem with the 1.6s. Jethro, my mate, obviously does, and when I last recorded a video with him.
Again, 1.6s! All they do is friggin' top end going. I just thought it was piston rings, and thinking back to it now, I think it was piston rings and it was oil stem seals. I've never heard of that on a 1.6.
But if you're getting a diesel one of these, don't go for the one with the M32 gearboxes. They have been called chocolate gearboxes for a reason. They are utterly crap. Now this gearbox is actually pretty good for the 1.4. I don't have an issue with that, but a lot of people have an issue with the engine timing chains and the fact that they are not very quick and responsive. I think this car's quite nippy, but sometimes when you're changing gears it does feel quite slow. But as a car goes, it corners amazingly. So yeah, I'd say go for the right one. Even the VXRs will have issues when it comes to gearboxes or head gaskets. I think the better ones would be the 1.6s out of these, or at least the 1.7s with the right gearboxes. I believe they come with two gearboxes. I'm not sure if they all come, or if it was the 1.9s that come with the M32. But get the one with the right gearbox and the right styling pack as well. I think the 1.8s is another good one, but I've had a 1.8 before and the VVTs on them were crap. But I suppose for a smaller, lighter car, the 1.8s in these are actually pretty nippy, and I'd say they're probably worth getting. Now, I'm not mocking this car's engine size being a 1.4. I've got to remember this is my partner Sarah's first car, so insurance is going to be cheap on a 1.4 than it is a 1.6 or a 1.8. But also I've got to remember this is a 55 plate car. It's an old car now. But I still think issues that I have pointed out in this video, some of them are current and true. The heaters, I mean, for an example with the heaters, I don't have an issue with my 1998 Corsa B with heaters. The heaters work perfect every single time. And that car's 22 years old. This is only 15 years old, this car, which is quite weird to say considering it's not that far away from a Corsa when you think about it. But even so, the heaters on this are failed. My Vectra, 14 years old, that thing, God, the heaters were a pain, and the fan was a pain on that. But there was so much stuff I had to replace on the Vectras. You know, there was a lot of things that were really cheaply designed, like the wiper motors. I've covered this all in a video that I made about that as well. So what I'm trying to say is this generation of Vauxhall cars were poorly built or designed in some cases. When they were new, I suppose they weren't bad at all. I think when they're new, they were actually pretty okay. And depends how the car's been well looked after. Now, this being a prime example, the interior, the exterior is actually pretty well looked after. The mileage as well even backs that up. Yeah, some things haven't been serviced correctly, like the chain, but the fans, you know, testament to my mum's Corsa. She's had that since new, on 32,000 miles, and the fans don't work on that. I'm sorry, but I can't get over the fact that at the time GM made really appalling stuff inside the cars. You know, stuff that was bound to break, or stuff that wasn't as refined, should I say. You know, things had a tendency to break, and on 90% of the cars ever built, they eventually did go wrong. But anyways, that is my top 10 things I dislike about the Mark V Astra. Like I say to you guys, don't take this to heart or as an insult to the Mark V Astras. I absolutely love the Mark V Astras for what they are. And that's why I recommended Sarah to go and get one, is because I actually quite like them. And I love driving this car. This car is actually a dream to drive. And I've said it in a previous video, I think it was probably my last video, I would actually happily go for this car in comparison to mine. So, you know, I'm not slating the cars in any means the stretch. I mean, there were things that are poorly built and stuff that didn't last as long as what was thought. You know, but I've got to give credit to this car. It's 15 years old and it's still here, considering the, you know, what it's built from. And it's a really good runner. It honestly corners better than mine. You know, and I know this is a dislike video and I'm giving a like in this one, but hey, if you guys haven't seen the video already, if you want to see the top things I like about the Mark V Astra, then click on my channel, have a look at the videos I've put on there. There are quite a few different videos on my channel of things that I dislike and like about certain cars. So why not give them a like? And if you like this video, like I say, why not leave it a like and subscribe? And I shall see you guys in the next video. Take care and stay safe.